So today I'll be reviewing the Odin Project, which I've spent the last 6 months working through and give my honest thoughts and opinions on who should be using it, what worked, what didn't, and how I think it can be used most effectively. Let's jump right in. A TLDR of the Odin Project is that it's a free online resource for learning full-stack web development, which teaches either the MERN stack for JS or Rails with Hotwire for Ruby. To kick off, who is the Odin Project designed for? Given its objective, pretty much anyone can use the Odin Project to learn full-stack web dev. That being said, if this is your first time learning to program, I'd highly recommend looking at other online tutorials, as you'll find it a lot easier to learn when ideas are explained verbally with supporting diagrams. Otherwise, if you already have the basics of control flow and data structures nailed, then you're good to go. Next, what worked well? To me, the best part of the Odin project is that it's effectively a knowledge base once you've completed all the content. This is extremely useful when you start working on other projects, as you'll find yourself frequently referencing back to something you saw in the curriculum. Of course, you can work through each of the lessons out of sequence, but if you work through them chronologically, you'll find that they logically lead into one another, which structures the content quite nicely as difficulty and complexity increase. Next, you'll find that often when you're trying to learn something, it'll become boring very quickly if you aren't actively applying the content in a hands-on project or deliverable. This is where I think the Odin project shines. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of assignments incorporated into the Odin project curriculum. And another element I appreciate is that over time there's less and less hand-holding, so the course becomes a real test of your conviction to learn. You're gonna need grit to make it all the way through the curriculum successfully. As an aside, don't compare your work to the other solutions listed on the website, and if you can help it, don't even open them at all. Some of the highest rated solutions were built by people with substantially more time, using techniques which aren't even covered. Now, before we continue, if you're enjoying the video, I'd appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe. And if you had a similar or different experience with the Odin project, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. Now back to the video. So we've discussed what worked well, but now we're going to jump into what didn't work so well. A flaw that I think would be relatively simple to fix is search. Sometimes you want to find something, but you just can't remember where it's located. I will say that this is a somewhat minor issue given that there aren't too many lessons to search through, but it would improve the user experience a lot if there was an easy way to search through content. In the meantime, a bootleg solution to this problem is searching the GitHub repo, though mileage may vary. I've also found that the content is quite text heavy and sort of reads like a textbook, albeit a pretty targeted and concise one. There are very few images and visual aids, if any, and if you don't have a strategy for what you will and won't ignore, you'll find yourself getting overwhelmed and or bored pretty fast. This also links back to my earlier suggestion of learning programming basics elsewhere, as once you have a decent grasp of foundational concepts, you can cut through content pretty easily and focus on what really matters. To resolve this issue, it might be helpful to include a paragraph early on which prefaces the purpose of the assignments and suggests a target audience, as otherwise the curriculum could easily take upwards of a year to complete. All this being said, I recognize that everyone is at a different stage in their developer journey, and I just wanted to share some of my perspectives on how this awesome resource could be used most effectively. Firstly, if you're planning on becoming a solopreneur and have no prior web dev experience, pick the Ruby on Rails route. Trust me, it's a lot more straightforward and easier to maintain if you're just trying to pump out an MVP. Sure, it's not the same as the hottest bleeding edge JS framework that released last week, but you'll save yourself a lot of time configuring your app, so you can spend more time on things that actually matter. When you're working alone, your time is limited and extremely valuable, so if something can make your life easier, take advantage of it so you can focus on making a great product, even if it doesn't scale. Next, assuming you have basic knowledge of algorithms and data structures, don't bother with looking at any of the assignments and focus primarily on the projects, unless you feel like you need some supplementary materials to review. Hands-on project-based learning is arguably the most effective way to learn, as you apply new concepts right after learning them, and there's more than enough content available to complete projects if you focus on implementation without being a perfectionist. Note that I say this specifically for the Rails path, as the Node.js path is a lot more convoluted and you'll need to rely on external resources to get through the project successfully. Next, make sure you pace yourself. There's a lot of content to cover and you're the only one holding yourself accountable. If you want to be successful, make sure you regularly take a step back and evaluate how useful a given piece of content is. If it's not useful or you find that full stack isn't to your taste, move on and find the next big thing to focus on. Learn to pivot rapidly and evolve as circumstances change. And remember to savor small victories as you progress. As you complete projects, you should be periodically adding them to your portfolio, no matter how good or bad they are, so you can look back and see how far you've come. Lastly, the best time to start was yesterday, and the second best time to start is right now.
Do it!